Hi class, this is your teacher Athena Naxos, and I'm going to introduce you to the passive voice today. In this lecture, I'll be discussing the main concepts that you need to know before you learn about the passive voice, and we're going to refer to chart 11.1 in your book if you'd like to open to that now. So, passive voice. Before we start talking about passive voice, we should talk about some important concepts. First of all, what does voice mean? Voice is a grammatical feature. We talk about active voice and passive voice. Voice refers to who or what is the subject of the clause. In other words, who or what is saying or doing the action in the sentence. Who is the focus of the action? Some other important terms you should know are subject, object, and transitive and intransitive verbs. Do you know the subject of the sentence? The subject of the sentence is a person, place, or thing, and it's the first word in the sentence. The object receives the action of the verb, and transitive and intransitive verbs are verbs that do or do not take an object. So here's some examples. The girl hit the baseball. In that sentence, the girl is the subject of the sentence. Now, in the passive sentence, you can see the baseball was hit by the girl. The subject moves to the end of the sentence. So, as you can see, the girl used to be the first position in the sentence, and in the second sentence, which is passive, it's in the end of the sentence. So it's less important than it is in the first sentence. The girl is no longer the focus of the sentence. About transitive and intransitive verbs, a transitive verb is a verb that takes an object, and it's important to know about transitive and intransitive because it will affect whether you can make a passive sentence or not. If a verb is transitive, you can make the sentence passive. If it's intransitive, you can't. Let's look at some examples. Here you see the sentence, Ju ate her lunch. It's a ate, or eat as the base form of the verb is called, is a transitive verb. It takes a direct object. In this case, lunch is the direct object of the verb eat. So this verb is transitive. We can make a passive voice sentence out of that, in contrast to the intransitive verb fall down. So in the sentence Kwang fell down, the verb fall down does not take an object, and let me demonstrate. Monica just fell down. Is there any object? No, it's just me. Let's do that again. This time I'll do a better job. If I'll fly up really high, and now watch me. Monica fell down. Now, there is no object in the sentence, just me, and I'm the most important thing. So that's how transitive and intransitive verbs are different. Okay, now let's talk about transitive verbs a little more. Transitive verbs take a direct object. They can be used in the passive voice. let's look at this example. The girl hit the baseball. That the verb hit is a transitive verb. It takes a direct object, baseball. We can make that sentence passive. In the passive sentence, baseball, which was the object of the sentence, now becomes the subject. The baseball was hit by the girl. Now the baseball is much more important in the passive sentence because it's in the first place. Okay, we're getting to the end of the lecture. I won't talk for very much longer, I promise. I just want to tell you about intransitive verbs. Intransitive verbs, in summary, do not take an object and the action revolves around the subject. That means the subject is really the most important thing. Just like in the example, when I flew up really high and I said, Monica fell down. I'm the focus of that sentence. There's no object. Monica fell down. So the action revolved around me. I was the subject. I cannot make that sentence passive. Some verbs, some other verbs that are intransitive are happen, fall off, rise. In each of these example sentences, it's impossible to make the sentence passive. The action revolves around the subject. In other words, the subject is the focus. So, how do we make a sentence then? What do we do with the subject when we make a passive sentence and we take the subject and move it out of its first place? We can put it in what's called a by phrase. We can add the by phrase if we think it's important who or what did the action. We don't have to, we can just leave the subject out, but if we want to, we can add a by phrase. So let's look at this. In this sentence, the mail was delivered. I don't have a by phrase because we know that the postman or the postwoman delivers the mail. However, in the second sentence, Bella was invited to the party by Pack. Well, we don't know who invited Bella, and maybe it's important to know who invited her. Maybe it's interesting. So in this case, I put Pack in a by phrase. Okay. How do we form the passive voice? Passive voice is formed using the verb to be in whatever tense is needed, and then the past participle. Let's practice. Over here, we have some sentences. Let's walk over to the chat area, and in the next video I'll show you. We'll practice making passive sentences. Thanks for your attention. See you in the next video. And this was your teacher, Athena Naxos, on Evergreen Island. See you soon.